Bulls Nation, today we're going to be continuing the discussion of free agency targets for the Chicago Bulls. And this is someone that is a very interesting target in my opinion. Someone that, in my opinion, many people don't necessarily want on the Chicago Bulls. But is someone that we have been linked to before and someone that we will probably be linked to again, even though it's not extremely heavy links to the Chicago Bulls. He is someone that played for the LA Lakers this year. LA Lakers didn't have a terrific year, unfortunately, out in the first round. But this guy is someone that could potentially lead that team. His name is Dennis Schröder, and once again, he's an interesting player in my opinion, someone that may make us better, but is he the target that we should go after? Let's talk about Dennis Schröder in this video. Let's do it. What's going on, everybody? It's the Aidan Sports Show, and welcome back to another video. Today we've got a Chicago Bulls related video discussing more free agents for the Chicago Bulls, and this one is referring to Dennis Schröder, a player that in my opinion is an extremely interesting player, a player that is definitely a good player, but is he the right choice for the Chicago Bulls? Is he someone that we should be going after this offseason? But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Aidan Sports Show YouTube channel, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about Dennis Schröder. What do you think he could be if he joined the Chicago Bulls? Is this the right decision for the Chicago Bulls to make? And is there down the line heavy progression when you bring someone like Dennis Schröder into this team over what we have already? These are all the things we're going to be discussing about today. But first, before we get anything into that, we need to discuss the season that Dennis Schröder has had. He averaged this season playing 61 games, very decent amount, 15.4 points per game, 3.5 rebounds per game, 5.8 assists per game, shooting 43% from the field and shooting 33% from the three-point line. Very effective as the third option for the LA Lakers. Someone that, in my opinion, doesn't get a lot of credit. In the end, he might not be the most, talked about player on the Lakers, or even in LA for that matter, when you have players like Reggie Jackson that have kind of taken that light off of Dennis Schröder. But at the end of the day, he's a capable player, he's a decent player, and he's definitely a player that can make a team better. And I definitely think throughout his time in the LA Lakers, he is someone that they've relied on for a heavy amount. Now, with that being said, would he join the Chicago Bulls and instantly make us a playoff team or make us go to that next level? With Dennis Schröder, in my opinion, especially this season, he has a lot of good qualities to his game. And I'm talking about offensively. Offensively, Dennis Schröder is a very good player in the NBA. He's able to make some shots. He's able to slash to the ring at an elite level. He's able to make some jump shots, shoot some threes. 33% from the three-point line is not bad at all. And he's able to facilitate. He's also been able to play point guard and shooting guard. And he's still 27 years old. So he has a lot of time left in the NBA to go and create and go and do more things outside of the LA Lakers, wherever he decides to go. Those are the good things about Dennis Schröder. Those are the positives that you take away. And that is a good positive if you want to bring him to the Chicago Bulls. If you bring Dennis Schröder into this team, you know that you're going to get points on the board. You know you're going to get some facilitating. However, is that all that we need in the point guard position? In the end, we are in need of a certain type of point guard. We are in need of a point guard that has really good defensive awareness, really has a good pick and roll defense, really can keep the ball, and all these situations. Is that what Dennis Schröder can do for us? Because I think defensively, there are better options out there than Dennis Schröder. I feel like throughout his entire career, from Atlanta to the OKC Thunder, all the way to the LA Lakers, I've never seen Dennis Schröder as an elite defender in the NBA. I've seen him be capable, but I don't see him as an elite defender, and that is something at the end of the day we need in that point guard position with the Chicago Bulls. I feel like scoring is something we're always going to have. I feel like with Kobe White, we have scoring. I feel like with Vooch and Zach, we have scoring. And I feel like we will get more scoring in the offseason as well. But with Dennis Schröder, is that the way to go? In my opinion, he's an option up there, but I don't think he's the first target for me for the Chicago Bulls. So with that being said, can he make us a playoff team? Yeah, I actually do believe Dennis Schröder could be a player that you can bring into this team and make us a playoff team. Again, I don't think we're necessarily far away from being a playoff team at all. We were a team that didn't make the play-in, which sucked, but at the end of the day, we could have easily, I wouldn't say easily, we could have made the play-in tournament if Zach LaVine had not missed those amount of games that he did. We could have made the play-in tournament if we were able to keep our composure. We would have made the play-in tournament if we were able to actually, I guess, not choke leads. And yes, those are all big things. And those are all things that if you bring a solid point guard into this team, those things get heavily reduced. You don't see us going and blowing leads if you have a capable point guard. You don't see us go and lose our composure if you don't have a good point guard. At the end of the day, those are things that can be resolved with good point guards. And Dennis Schröder, he might be able to bring that. He might be able to keep the composure of a team. He might be able to make those clutch plays down the stretch to make sure that we can keep those leads and to keep our composure and to maybe not blow leads so easily and all of these things. And maybe if we had Dennis Schröder this season on the team, and you had Dennis Schröder playing with Kobe White and Zach LaVine did miss that time, maybe we still would have made that play-in tournament. And I truly feel like with the play-in tournament, we would have made the playoffs. I really believe that. But at the end of the day, we can't sit here and say that, can we? We didn't make the play-in tournament, and we needed a good point guard to help us through that. We needed more players, more depth to help us through that, and we didn't get there. But I don't think we're far away. So I feel like a player like Dennis Schröder would take us to the playoffs. However, I don't feel like it's further enough progression for us to bring in Dennis Schröder. He is a player that wants to leave the Lakers, in my opinion. That's all fine and good. At the end of the day, he wants to get paid. I understand that. He's an unrestricted free agent. I believe this year, 2021, unrestricted free agent. He wants some money, and he believes that he can get it elsewhere from the Lakers. I don't feel like the Lakers are ready to commit to Dennis Schröder, and I feel like the Lakers are looking for viable options, including Lonzo Ball. So the reality is Dennis Schröder is looking for the bag. He's had communication, and he's played for Billy Donovan before, so that's always a good step as well. If you want a player that has already played with a coach like Billy Donovan, understands him, Billy understands Dennis Schröder as well. These are the things that can happen. Dennis Schröder would probably want to play for Billy Donovan again, because I feel like his best years was under Billy Donovan, to be honest. Even if he wasn't that main point guard, starting point guard in the league, he still had his best years, in my opinion, in that area. So that is also something to take into consideration. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, he's not going to be my first option for the Chicago Bulls. I really feel like we need some defensive players. I really feel like that's the way to go. As I said before, scoring will always be a thing for the Chicago Bulls. I feel like we are a very good scoring team. And yes, we could always do with more scoring, but I feel like we need to have a certain type of point guard. We need to have a point guard that can play defense. We need a very good defensive point guard to help fix the errors or fix the weaknesses of some of our other players on this team. We failed to mention a lot of times when we talk about players in the point guard position, we are one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. We can fight, we can score, and when we're able to put the ball in the bucket, man, it feels good. It's a joy to watch the Chicago Bulls when they're on fire and they're making every shot. But not every NBA game is like that. Unfortunately, we're in situations last season where we needed defense. We weren't scoring, but our defense also let us down, and that's how we let teams that are not better than us come close and win games, and that's how we let better teams take advantage of us as well. The defensive end is a very strong weakness of ours. The turnovers is something that we will also need to see as well, and I feel like a point guard will help that as well. But the defensive end is the big issue. And if you bring Lonzo Ball, if you bring a solid defensive player into this team, even like a Mike Conley, someone like that, that is where I see our progression going. That's where I see the Bulls taking the next level, because we can find scorers, but we need to find players that are good two-way players. And considering the amount that I believe Dennis Schröder would want, again, 15 points per game, that's going to require a lot of money, in my opinion, for a player like Dennis Schröder. So my answer is, I don't think he's our first option. I think he's far from our first option at the end of the day. I think he's a great player. I feel like Kobe White kind of resembles a Dennis Schröder type of player who's able to score effectively, find multiple ways to score, can get that playmaking going. But at the end of the day, I don't feel like we need Dennis Schröder when we have Kobe White on the team. Again, Dennis Schröder might be a better player now, but Kobe White's, I believe, 21 years old. there's a 6-year gap here, and most of them would be for the Chicago Bulls for Kobe White, where we could probably see a little bit more progression and maybe a little bit more about him than what we see with Dennis Schröder at 27. It's a very interesting player, I must say, with Dennis Schröder as well. I don't hate Dennis Schröder at all. In fact, for the Lakers, I feel like he's been a very underrated player. I know many people on the LA side don't necessarily like Dennis Schröder for some of the things that he does on the court. He's not always taking the correct shots or the right shots, and sometimes he does make dumb decisions, but most players do at the end of the day. But I feel like he's been a very big part of the Lakers, so I feel like a lot of the hate is not necessarily justified when it comes to Dennis Schröder, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. You reap what you sow. Sometimes players that you need are not always your favorite players. And maybe Dennis Schröder will be that for the Lakers or whatever team he goes to at the end of the day. But in my opinion, I feel like it is time to, I guess, let go of that, I want to say dream. I think that ambition of trying to get Dennis Schröder. I feel like there are better choices out there, and I definitely feel like the Chicago Bulls should try and venture out and go for a more defensive-minded, playmaking-minded player than Dennis Schröder. But again, he's a good player. If he comes to this team, I would not be upset at all if he came to the Chicago Bulls. But I would be lying to you if I said I think he's my first option. I don't think he's my first option. It's as simple as that. He's not my first option. He's not near my first option. But he is a capable point guard, and he would someone that I would consider if there was no other options left for the Chicago Bulls. So we'll see what that comes down to down the line. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. Have a wonderful and safe day, Bulls Nation. I'll see you in another Chicago Bulls video. Take care and peace.